All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle the one part of the Certified Professional Biller exam that trips up almost everyone. What happens after you hit submit on a claim? Because you got to remember, in the world of medical billing, a submitted claim, that's not the finish line. Oh no, it's really just the starting gun for a huge financial battle. You see, denials aren't just failures. They're signals. They're telling you exactly where things went wrong. And appeals? They aren't just a mountain of paperwork. They're pure strategy. And that, right there, is the key. The CPB exam isn't just testing if you can fill out a form correctly. It's testing if you can think beyond that initial submission and deep into recovery. So today, we're going to give you a strategic sneak peek of how we, at Exam Coaches, train you to manage the entire life of a claim, all the way from denial to final resolution. Let's talk about the claim recovery problem, because this is where the real challenge begins for any biller, and especially for anyone studying for the CPB exam. It all starts after submission. So what's the deal? Why is this one area so incredibly tough? Why do so many smart, capable candidates get stuck when it comes to claim recovery? Well, it usually boils down to a few common sticking points. A lot of people get denials and appeals totally mixed up. They have a pretty weak grasp on what happens after a claim is sent, they don't have a real system for follow-up, and they aren't paying attention to payer deadlines. But the biggest one? They try to just memorize rules instead of understanding the logic behind recovering that revenue. And here it is, the absolute heart of the issue. Most candidates spend all their time studying claim submission, but the CPP exam, it's built to test your mastery of claim recovery. That's the gap we're going to start closing right now. So let's put the Exam Coaches framework into action. We'll start with the two things that cause the most headaches, denials and appeals. Okay, first things first, let's clear this up. A rejected claim is one that gets bounced back before it's even processed because of some errors. But a denied claim, that's different. It went through the whole system, and the payer made an active decision. Nope, we're not paying. Knowing the difference is absolutely the first step. And these denials, they're not random. They actually follow very clear patterns. You'll see them pop up because of things like an incorrect code, a patient's coverage ending, the service not actually being covered by their plan, or, and this one is a big one, the claim just wasn't filed on time. Which leads us to the big strategic question, right? Is a denial the end of the road? Or is it an opportunity, a puzzle to be solved with the right strategy? And that's exactly where the appeal comes into play. But an appeal isn't just, asking for the money again. It is a formal, strategic process. It means categorizing that denial, finding the pattern, and providing the exact documentation to build your case. So here's a classic exam-style scenario for you. A claim gets denied for lack of medical necessity. What specifically is going to determine whether or not your appeal actually works? It's going to take a lot more than just filling out a form, I'll tell you that. Okay, all of this flows perfectly into the next part of our framework, mastering tracking and deadlines. This is all about proactively protecting revenue with good systems and just being aware. Claims tracking and follow-up isn't just some passive administrative chore. It has very clear, very active goals. The accounts receivable, or AR team, is constantly working to shrink the time it takes to get paid, tracking every single pending claim, analyzing those denial patterns we talked about, and jumping on overdue accounts before they become a real problem. Let's try another mini scenario. Picture this. You sent a claim out weeks ago, and since then, nothing. Crickets. What is the correct professional next step? What do you do? This brings us to a concept that is an absolute killer in the revenue cycle: timely filing. Every payer, and I mean every payer, has a hard deadline for when a claim must be submitted. If you miss that deadline, even by a day, you're looking at an automatic denial, and often there's no coming back from it. So think about this. If a claim is 100% perfect, perfectly coded, totally justified, but it's filed late, does it still get paid? All right, now it's time to connect all of these dots. Here's the most important insight we teach at Exam Coaches. These aren't just separate topics on a list you have to memorize. They are all part of one single interconnected system. Just look at how it all flows together. Denials, they identify the problems. Appeals, they resolve the disputes. Claims tracking, it ensures you can see what's happening. And timely filing, it protects the claim's eligibility right from the very beginning. And that's the whole game right there. We don't teach these as separate steps. We teach them for what they really are: interconnected control points in the claim lifecycle. And your ability to manage this flow, that's what decides whether revenue is lost, recovered, or protected. And this is exactly why we say we don't just teach you billing procedures. We train you in claim lifecycle thinking. We build your denial management strategy, and we sharpen your revenue recovery judgment. Look, this was just a glimpse, just a preview of the strategic thinking you'll need to master the CPB exam. The full framework, with all the answers to the questions we asked, is waiting for you inside,